Hey, it's Mazzy here, and welcome to another video. This is Fleetwood Mac, the catalog, the discography ranked from my point of view, my opinion, one man's opinion, an opinion from someone who grew up as these records came out and actually bought them as they came out. Now, let me set something up right now. When you see this for 5 seconds, if you need to skip the preamble, look for this. When I hold this record up again for 5 seconds, that's when the ranking will actually begin. I say this because I've had several comments on some of my videos where a handful of people say this guy needs to get to the point faster. He doesn't need to talk about anything else. We just want the ranking. We just want the review. We just want the meat. Well, you can go look on a list and look at people who just make a list of the top 15, top 20, top 10 Fleetwood Mac records ranked. You can do that. My videos are about context. They're about my personal history, how I got into this music, why I like these records, and I want to set a little bit of background to it. Now, some people don't want that. Skip ahead to that and enjoy. And that's fine. I don't take it personally if you don't want to hear my stories. Let me show a few things. Now, these records are not included in my ranking. My ranking has, 14 records. There are 2 omissions, which I'll get into later. I'll let you know what they are when I start the ranking. But let me just talk about a couple records that are not included. This is a record that came out in various forms on CD. There's 3 volumes, separate vinyls, and this is the 1970 Boston Tea Party live recording. This is a must for anyone who likes the original Fleetwood Mac, the more bluesy side of Fleetwood Mac. This is that last golden period in 1970 when they had 3 great guitar players. And this is a fantastic live record. Peter Green came back just as he was leaving, just after he left actually, and plays on this. And it's really great blues, the hits up to that point, and I highly recommend this. I don't know how hard it is to get, but the Boston Tea Party, this club in Boston, February 5th, 6th, and 7th. I believe this is the entire show, and it's just look at that wood etching, look at that painting, and there they are in all their splendor. Of course, the great Peter Green. Peter Green, I mean, that's the essence of this band. Obviously, Fleetwood Mac is a combination of the names of Mick Fleetwood and John McVie, the rhythm section, and that's been the one constant that this band has had throughout their entire career. And some will say, oh, they don't count. You know, once Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks came in, they were a California mellow band. Not totally true. I get that, people get very territorial. They like their band pure as is. I've had countless debates with people on when does a band not become the band of the original band? They should change the name like the Byrds. I don't agree with those people, but that's it. Anyway, a couple other things I'm just going to show. A kind of a cool record, Fleetwood Mac in Chicago, where they jammed with Otis Spann, Willie Dixon, Shaky Horton, J.D. Brown, Guitar Buddy, Honey Boy Edwards, and S.P. Leary. A great blues jam period. I mean, the young British Turks meet the Chicago bluesmen of the day, and this is a fantastic kind of jamming record, the great blues record. And Fleetwood Mac, like a lot of these bands, these UK bands, started as a blues band, and I'm not going to get in the whole history of it, but like the Yardbirds, like John Mayall, they brought a lot of us young Americans that we got turned on to the blues that we didn't know, Elmore James, and I mean, just amazing blues players, and Otis Spann, and these young British artists kind of brought it back and turned us on to it, and luckily it kind of actually revitalized the original blues artists. So this is a great collection. This is a 1975 Sire issue double album of this. In terms of comps, there are several great comps. This is one that CBS put out. Columbia Records, basically, Epic Records, their subsidiary in the early 70s as well. And this is Black Magic Woman. This is, again, the Peter Green years, the first years with Albatross, Black Magic Woman. You know, a lot of hits they had in the UK. Of course, most of us young Americans got to know Black Magic Woman because of Santana's cover on it. A lot of people didn't know that was a cover of a Fleetwood Mac song. But this is a nice comp of the singles they put out and some album tracks from those first albums produced by Mike Vernon in the UK. And of course, one of the great comps, and this is actually a Music on Vinyl. I used to have the UK copy, but it got lost in my 95 purge. And this is the greatest hits, again, from that first great strong period of Fleetwood Mac with Albatross, Man of the World, Green Monalishi, Black Magic Woman, Oh Wells Part 1 and 2, the Peter Green years. And so this is a highly recommended comp. If you don't have see, people come in at different times. If you came in during the Buckingham Nicks period, this would be a good entry getting into this early blues period. I mean, I prefer the early period with some caveats, and you'll see in my list that some of this period aren't as high as others, and some are very high than others. So it's kind of a yin-yang comment on what this ranking is going to be, but this is a fantastic comp, just a great listen. And I want to show one thing, just because this is a favorite 12-inch of mine, and I got a copy of this from my friend, my Warner Brothers friend in 1977. And this is a 45 RPM promo copy of Go Your Own Way from Rumors and Silver Springs that was never on an album until comps much later. And some people think that this should have been, Silver Springs should have been on, I think you could replace a song and put that on Rumors. But this is one of the most incredibly sounding records in my collection. To me, Go Your Own Way is one of those perfect singles. I got this promo. You can find this, seek it out. It sounds awesome, 45 RPM. Just blast it and your speakers will explode in your face, basically. It's really great. So that is my introduction in terms of the vinyl. Just two other side notes. If you're a CD person, this is the comp to get. This is the Warner Brothers years, and this is from 1969 to 74 on CDs that have replica of all these great Warner Brothers records leading up and prior to Rumors and the 1975 White Fleetwood Mac album. And it has an extra track recorded at the record plant in Sausalito that was broadcast live, I believe, on KSAN in the time. I remember hearing this. And this is this great period of 1974 Fleetwood Mac, sort of the last hurrah of that band before they became the mega band they became. Now, you could argue whether you like one or the other, and that's what this is not about. This is not judgmental, but it's about my take and what I like. And this is kind of an interesting comp. Remember when this came out? This is 25 years of Fleetwood Mac, The Chain, kind of a hits and deep cuts. My disappointment with this, it didn't have enough of the early blues Peter Green period. It really emphasized the later period, which I think it had heavy-handedly went a little too far in that direction, but it's still kind of a nice comp. That's during my CD years when I was all in on compact discs. So now we're going to go with the ranking. Okay, so if you just got here now, this is my personal ranking, my take on it. Feel free to write your favorite Fleetwood Mac records. And here we go. Coming at number 14. Now, as I said, two records I don't have, I've never had of theirs, and that's later period. Behind the Mask, 1990, and Time, 95. I don't know those records. I don't have those records. I don't think I've ever had those records. I was totally off Fleetwood Mac by then, with one exception, which you'll see in this list. So coming at number 14, and I know people like this record, but to me, it just, there's a couple cuts on it, but it sounds dated. Coming at number 14 is Tango in the Night. A lot of people, this was a big hit. This was a great popular record, chart-busting record. And of course, Little Lies was the single. I actually like that song. It's a little twee, but it's a great single. But the rest of this has some of that 80s affectation that I'm not a fan of. That just makes it so dated. I mean, music, maybe it's where you are and where you were and how you're growing into this music and growing with this music, but it's just, you know, this is a reissue because I never got this on vinyl at the time. In fact, I never got this record at the time, and maybe that's my problem. But it just, to me, doesn't hold up like a lot of their catalog. No, I love their catalog. To me, they have a really diverse, wonderful, strong catalog. So you're going to see some albums on here that are lower, you know, in the top 13 after this, and they're all really good. Doesn't mean they're bad, but to me, this is the weakest in this particular list for me, coming in at number 14. Coming in at number 13. Now, I almost put this one last because this is a problematic record. This is from 1973. This is Penguin. This is a period when they're really in a transition period with a couple members that lasted literally one record. But they do a cover of I'm a Roadrunner. Bob Welch is in the band here, but Bob Weston is in here. Dave Walker plays on it, a couple tracks, Kristen McVie. This record doesn't hold up. And I think you know, the whole Penguin thing came into, is this around the time that at the first they used the Penguin icon? I can't remember. Iconic. That's been a really strong part of their iconograph logo type thing. But 1973, number 13, Penguin. I'm not going to say much about it because I don't like this record very much. So number 13. Coming in at number 12, and this is from 1974. I was in a point from when I bought the records, I would buy every single Fleetwood Mac album when they came out. And around this period here, these are the period when I was working in a record store, so I'd always take it home. Put it on the store as soon as it came out and would take it home. Coming in at number 12 is Heroes Are Hard to Find. This is a time when they were really moving into the whole California scene. And with the addition of Bob Welch, who came on a little earlier than this, you know, they started merging from that British blues band to pop to the California sound. Some would say a little lighter sound, but really wonderful songwriting. And Bob Welch was a great addition, great guitar player, and a great vocalist. And Christine McVie is all over this, but Heroes Are Hard to Find is on here, and come a little bit closer. There's a little bit of a light funkiness to some of Christine McVie's work on here. Her piano player and her voice, I just really, really like it. It's unusual. It's not sweet, and it's almost masculine in a weird way, if that makes any sense. But I really like this, and there's a great line on that Bob Welch wrote and sings on here on one of the tracks. If I could sing like Paul McCartney, get funky like Etta James, I'd never change. So this is number 12, Heroes Are Hard to Find, on my ranking list. Coming in at number 11, this might be a surprise to some. I only have it on compact disc, and this is Say You Will, and this is from 2003. I really like this record. It's a great sounding record. I would like to have a vinyl version of this. This is, I believe, sort of a comeback record. This is their last record as the current band stands. Last new album material, 2003. I don't think there's anything since then, right? I like this record. I think it's kind of, it's a really good sounding record. Of course, you got all of the production guitar intensity, beautifully recorded by Lindsey Buckingham. But I like this record. And, you know, again, it's low on my list at number 11, but it's still a good record. I would like to have a vinyl version. I think it's, you know, posters and CDs aren't the same, so you get your proof sheet of 35 millimeter proofs, negatives, proof, contact sheet. That's what the word I was looking for. I should know that. I work in photography here. Okay, coming in number 10 from 1968, and this might be low for some, but this is Mr. Wonderful, of course, the iconic Mick Fleetwood on the cover. This is a funny, fantastic cover. This is part of the Mike Vernon's productions from those early records in the UK. Again, 1968, number 10. This is a great record. This is really a blues record. What's nice about that, I think there's a couple of Elmore James covers on here, but the rest of the songs are originals on here. And it's strictly a blues album, a blues band. Now, in a way, that doesn't take away from its greatness, but it doesn't make it as originals. It almost seems like it's an album of covers, even though they're original. When you do, obviously these blues, when you do standard blues breaks and standard blues progressions, the lead guitar of Peter Green and the double, and the vocals and the slide guitar and piano, Jeremy Spencer. Those two together on this made this just a beautiful, brilliant band here. And, for standard blues stuff, and Peter Green's vocals and Jeremy Spencer, this is a fantastic record. But it is my number 10th record from 1968, Fleetwood Mac. Coming at number 9 from 1973, very much a pop record, and that is Mystery to Me. I hate this cover. It's fun. It's like, it's a WTF cover. Why? What is this cover, this illustration? What was this about? I remember this coming out and not loving it. Again, you got Bob Welch in the band, and but you got the great song in Hypnotized. One of the great songs about flying saucers and UFOs. Great pop song. Great how the drum kind of fades in, and it's just a beautiful vocal by Bob Welch and a beautiful atmosphere to that song. But I really like this record. Emerald Eyes it opens up with. So coming in number 9, Mystery to Me, Fleetwood Mac, 1973. Now these next two records, they happen to come in a row, and I think this would have been one of the most brilliant, creative double albums by Fleetwood Mac. And you'll know right when I show the first one. This is coming in at number 8, and this is from 1972, and this is Bare Trees. There's a moodiness to these two records, almost like a soundscape that's really ethereal at times. It's that bridge between the blues playing of Peter Green, where, Peter Green had this, aside from his smoking lead guitar work and bluesy licks. And again, he's my favorite of all those British blues guitar players. Better than Clapton, better than Beck, better than Page, by far better than all of them. Is to me, the most original and the most tasteful of those. And he had a sound, he could have this mellow, moody, almost like Hawaiian kind of guitar playing sound, which I'll get into a little bit. And with Jeremy Spencer too. I mean, you can't knock that. But there's a mood to this. Christine McVie's obviously all in it. And it's just a really lovely record. You got Bob Welch songs, Danny Kirwan songs. Danny Kirwan, to me, was one of the great songwriters and vocalists of the band for that period too. And what a great guitarist when they had 3 guitar players of Danny Kirwan, Jeremy Spencer, and Peter Green. That's on that live Boston album. Those 3 guitar players are just, the interaction they have is second to no one, probably, no other band. But I love that. Bare Trees. Now, Sentimental Lady is probably a schmaltzy, beautiful song by Bob Welch that he would later do on his debut album. He'd recover it, and it would become, kind of somewhat of a hit for him. But there's really just a great mood to this. So this is number 8, 1972. And of course, you probably know the answer, or the companion piece from 1971. Coming in at number 7 on my list is Fleetwood Mac's Future Games. This really started that soundscape, that moodiness, opening up with A Woman of 1,000 Years. Future Games, the Bob Welch song that has this long, sensuous, meandering mood, guitar. It's very soothing, but not soothing in a boring way from my point of view. It's just really ethereal, and it's a great late night record, Sunday morning record. And I love this. On 1971, number 7, Sands of Time, Show Me a Smile. Again, written by Christine Perfect. That's the Christine McVie's name, her maiden name. And I just will show this just because there were 2 cover variants. I don't really remember what the reason was. This is a version I got from my friend's Coleman collection, so I decided to keep it. But fantastic record. Again, this and Bare Trees would have made an amazing double album. But still, I remember playing these back to back, and they just seemed like a couplet of great albums by Fleetwood Mac from 1971 and 1972. And again, that's coming in number 7 on my Fleetwood Mac ranking. 1975. This changed it for Fleetwood Mac. All of a sudden, they became this huge, massive band, the biggest band in the world for a while. This started in 1975. This is when Buckingham Nicks joined the band, singer, guitar player, singer, and it really changed them. Of course, they still had Christine McVie, Fleetwood and Mac in the rhythm section, and it became the California sound, almost the Laurel Canyon, not quite, but that Southern California slickness. And it was a totally different band, produced by Fleetwood Mac and Keith Olsen. It was a pop band. An amazing, beautifully recorded record, and this changed everything. Some fans of Fleetwood Mac from their blues days were put off by this. It was a whole different slickness to it, but it hit the charts Monday morning. I remember when I played this, again, opening it up in the record store at the time, opening the box of this and seeing this. I hadn't heard the Buckingham Nicks solo record. I think there you can get gray market copies of that, but find an original. It's a great sounding record. I don't think it's ever been actually reissued, surprisingly enough. Rhiannon, of course, all over the place. Now, I will admit that all during this tenure, I actually like this. I got a little tired of it because this and obviously the later album Rumors were so big that after a while, working in a record store and hearing it on radio, I couldn't listen to Rumors for probably 30 years. And we'll get to that in a bit. That's coming up. But Over My Head has a great sound. But I was never fully entrenched and in love with the Stevie Nicks voice. I was always more into, in this period, Lindsey Buckingham and still Christine McVie. I just love her sound. Landslide, Sugar Daddy, Say You Love Me. The percussions, the way Keith Olsen recorded Mick Fleetwood's drums this period on are nothing short of outstanding. That and the bass playing of McVie. This is a fantastic sounding record. For me, it's number 6 on my greatest ranking of Fleetwood Mac records. Coming in at number 5. This might be a surprise to some, but again, it's when you first heard this record, where were you? I was 16 years old, 15 years old, turning 16 years old in 1970, Kiln House, with this gorgeous cover art by Christine McVie. She wasn't all in, but she did contribute, obviously, to the artwork and to some of the vocals on this album. But to me, this is a beautiful record. This, I believe, the first record after Peter Green left the band. It's got Jeremy Spencer now and Danny Kerwin on guitar, and their interaction is really great. But there were 2 songs on this record that got very heavy FM radio play, and that is Tell Me All the Things You Do, that Danny Kerwin song. It's such a great rock, kind of medium tempo rock hit, guitar-based song, and it's just it makes you feel good, and it's just a kick-ass song, kick-ass recording. And the other one, written by Danny Kerwin, Jeremy Spencer, and John McVie, is Station Man. Oh my God! And the harmonies on that song, and it's again a mid-tempo piece. Great friggin' record, Station Man. This is The Rock. Again, there's a lot of retro sound on this album. Harks back to just basic rock and roll with This Is The Rock, a Jeremy Spencer song. Hi-O Silver, which is the cover of the rock and roll song Hi-O Silver. Of course, this was dear to me because at the time this came out, my girlfriend's name was Judy, and there's a song at end side one called Jewel-Eyed Judy, which is just a beautiful, beautiful romantic love ballad. And I just love that song. Of course, I play that. And then there's Buddy's song, which is Buddy Holly's song, or about Buddy Holly, rewritten somewhat, and has the whole Buddy Holly chord change time thing. So there's a whole regression to old rock and roll on this album, mixed in with those songs, Tell Me All the Things You Do, and Station Man and July Judy. A beautiful record, beautiful sounding record, amongst my favorite, and it's number 5 on my list of Fleetwood Mac albums. This shouldn't be controversial at all, but maybe to some, it's sacrilege. My number 4th album, number 4, is the 1977 Monster album, Rumors. Controversial from maybe two sides of the story. Some people think this is the Fleetwood Mac, one of the greatest albums of all time. It is. It is one of the greatest albums. It's one of the great sounding records, one of the most beautifully recorded records. Cocaine-fueled creation in Sausalito at the record plant. What a fantastic album. This was a monster album. This is like what Jaws was to the movie industry in the 70s. This album, this and Hotel California and Frampton Comes Alive. 3 albums that I couldn't listen to for 3 decades because they were so big and so popular. But you can't deny how great this record is. I just will show, if you really wanted something special, there's a Steve Hoffman, Kevin Gray cut, double 45 version of this. It emulates that 45, 12-inch I was talking about earlier. It just sounds amazing. It is a good sounding record, so hearing it, if you want that little extra oomph, again, you know, I'm not all in on audiophile things, but from the master tapes, amazing. But that's not what this video is about. It's about the music. Of course, don't stop. Go your own way. To me, Go Your Own Way, as I said, is one of the best pop songs, records ever written and recorded. The drums, the percussion on that just explode. You Make Love and Fun. And again, I'm a Christine McVie fan. So coming in number 4, this is Fleetwood Mac, Rumors. I know it would be number 1 for some. Some people hate the Buckingham Nicks period. Number 3 is Tusk. Most fans of the Buckingham Nicks period of Fleetwood Mac, I'm sure would rank Rumors over Tusk. But I think this is probably hands down their most creatively outlandish records. And that makes it wonderful to me. It's like Beatle fans who love the White Album. There's so much variety. There's so many different pieces of experimentation, almost throwaways that some would argue. Something like Not That Funny. Just a little, you know, it could be Paul grabbing Ringo, going to the other room to put down Why Don't We Do It in the Road. But there's so much on this record. I think it's a beautiful record. I think it's an adventurous record, especially 2 years later after a follow-up to Rumors. I think Tusk is a masterpiece in recording and adding the UCLA marching band, the percussion on that, and it's a wild experiment that became a hit. I think some people were perplexed by this record. I think some people were disappointed by this record when it came out. But I remember buying this record when it came out. Again, it was during my record store tenure, and bringing home the cassette from my car, putting in the car. You know, we borrowed, check things out, and I would play this a lot. And I think every time I heard it, I heard something different. It's one of those records. There's so much in here. There's so much to digest, and I think it's brilliant. So number 3 is Tusk, Fleetwood Mac. Really a tour de force and really pushed to the extreme by Lindsey Buckingham that made it that the record it turned out to be. You know, here's where Mazzy kind of fudges a little bit. Number 2 are 2 records. In a way, it's a tie, but there's a reason for it. It's not. One is a legitimate album and one is a comp. And to me, this comp, I usually don't include comps or hits albums, but I think this is really important from the British point of view versus the American point of view. And that's gets very complicated because all these albums didn't come out in America the same way they did in Britain. And of course, in the 60s, these artists like Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles and Stones would have a lot of singles that weren't on records until they were comped. So coming in number 2, a twofer of 1968 and 1969, Fleetwood Mac, otherwise known as Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac, their debut album, their first album produced by Mike Vernon, and The Pious Bird of Good Omen, which is a comp, okay? Albatross. Does it come with chips? If you don't get that, then anyway. Okay, this is a comp of their singles, A-sides and B-sides around this period from 68, 69. A couple of album tracks from their first two records, those two records shown there, and a couple of blues tracks with Eddie Boyd. This record is brilliant. And where I put Mr. Wonderful lower, it was straight ahead blues. What's great about this debut, it really showcased the talented and subtle and the beauty of Peter Green's guitar playing. This record has an added beauty to the blues. It takes the blues and just doesn't cover young British guitar gods version of American blues. It adds another layer, and that's in the genius, for the most part here, of Peter Green, but also the great kind of slide sound of Jeremy Spencer. What a dynamic debut, one of the great debuts of all time. And it has this sort of subtle guitar, again with the slide playing and Peter Green's wonderful tonation of his playing. It adds a whole other level. The beauty of his voice, he's got the most soothing voices again of all those blues players of the late 60s UK, British blues guitarists and vocalists. Peter Green is, to me, again, the number one. This record is amongst its bluesy side to it, it's got a lot of beauty. And that leads me to this. You cannot talk about the greatness of Fleetwood Mac without talking about several songs that are on this record. Need Your Love So Bad, which is a cover of the Little Willie John song. The vocals on that of Peter Green and the guitar playing is soothing. A string arrangement overdub. It's beautiful. There is a box set of the Blue Horizon years, the Mike Vernon years on CD, which has everything with outtakes. That is a stunner. I should have pulled that to showcase, but I would definitely get that if you're a compact disc person. This has Albatross, one of the greatest instrumentals of all time. Number one, I think it's their first number one in the UK. I suggest you play Albatross, and right after that, you put on Here Comes the Sun King from Abbey Road. John Lennon heard Albatross. The Beatles loved this song. He wrote Sun King pretty much influenced directly, he even said, based on the song Albatross. What an unusual number one hit in the UK. And it's unfortunate that at the time the American stations and the radio didn't grab onto something like that. It was too subtle, too different for what was on top 40 radio in the day. What a amazing, beautiful piece of music. It's something that stands above all this Fleetwood Mac song. And it's a song that they would eventually cover even in Buckingham Nicks days at some occasionally. But also it has the Peter Green song on here, Black Magic Woman. And of course, as I said earlier, we all know it because of Santana covering it, but this is the original version, and what an amazing piece of music that is as well. Black Magic Woman on here. I think this is an amazing album. It's got the Elmore James song, The Sun is Shining, a great vocal, great blues number, but again, this one stands out more than Mr. Wonderful, and even though this is a comp, this is an important record, so I'm putting these two together at number two. We all have our number ones, and those of you who know this catalog well know what number one is because of what haven't you seen yet, aside from those two that I'm not showing, and that is Then Play On. What an amazing record, a transitional record, the final record with Peter Green, a gorgeous record. Now, this is a second printing of the American. This came out in 1969. The last record Peter Green was on. Oh Well was one of those great rock singles of the late 60s, early 70s that was made up of several segments and went from this great kind of guitar riff rock and roll to a break, and on the B side of the single went into this classical Spanish guitar riff, and just a beautiful record. Very much like Sky Pilot by the Animals, that went on this great heroic sound and into bagpipes and the fighting on the battlefield. But that was added, the song Oh Well was added to the second pressing of this, and I'm including that version because I think that adds and rounds out the album. Although the Sun is Shining, Rattlesnakes Shake, Before the Beginning. There's something about this record. It doesn't have all the best songs that Fleetwood Mac ever recorded, but there's something about this record that just magically works for me. And in 1970, this is that crossover period of the end of the 60s into the 70s. This shows the maturity of Fleetwood Mac from being a blues band, even though they already had Albatross and Black Magic Woman, and you could argue there are better songs on other albums, but for me, this is the #1 Fleetwood Mac album, Then Play On. I love this, they picked up this painting for the cover. So this is my favorite record in the Fleetwood Mac catalog. Again, all these records are great, and I could pick and choose other songs, but this is the #1 album, Then Play On, 1970. So, curious what you think. Mazzy loves you, and we'll see you next time.